Good evening and welcome to Salford Now with Isaac Shelton
and Ellie Double. Coming up on today's programme.
I'm at Media City Trans Stop to discuss Greater Manchester's carbon neutral transport network.
With Remembrance Day coming up, the Imperial War Museum North prepares to unveil a wave of clay poppies tomorrow as part of their new display.
Yeah, we don't promote being thin, we promote being strong.
And have you ever thought about taking your baby to a workout? Well, now new mums can do so without the pressure of going to the gym. We've got all that and more coming up. Good evening. Now, yesterday we brought you the story that a new Women and Girls Commission is to be set up in Salford as part of the City Council's Equality and Inclusion Strategy. Eccles councillor Sharmina August, who announced the commission, spoke to Salford Now's reporter Jake Teagle this afternoon to outline the council's plan.
It's going to be looking at all of the different inequalities and issues that women face across the whole of society. So things like pay, things like domestic abuse, things like discrimination for childcare or pregnancy. It's going to include trans women as well. So anyone who identifies as a woman will be looked at, and it's a time-limited commission. So it's not going to drag on forever and ever and ever. The idea is that we look at things, we bring in experts, we examine the data, and then we come out with real suggestions and reports to change things for the better for women in Salford.
That was Sharmina August talking to Jake Teagle earlier. But is the commission really needed? How safe do women feel in Salford?
Do you feel safe walking around Salford, especially at night time?
Not really. I would rather be with a group of friends. If I was on my own, I would be a little bit cautious and stay vigilant. So I'd rather be with friends.
Not when it gets dark though. I'd have to say that I'm always sort of looking around my shoulder on my phone and just being quite careful around here.
It depends where in Salford, like the campus, the university, pretty safe because there's security around. But anywhere else, not really. Like I've had it before where I've had people shouting stuff at the cars and that.
Not very safe, to be honest. I mean, in Media City probably more so. But like Salford, I wouldn't walk around on my own.
Now here's a roundup of some of today's other headlines. The Health Secretary Sajid Javid has announced that frontline health and social care workers will have to be vaccinated by April next year. Salford Royal Hospital employs around 10,000 members of staff.
Let's take a quick look at the coronavirus rates here in Salford. In the past 7 days, 734 people had a confirmed positive test result. That's down by just over 9% compared to the previous 7 days, with nearly 160,000 people in the city having received their second vaccine dose.
This week marks the North West Sexual Violence Awareness Week, and a vigil's being held at the University of Salford tomorrow to stand in solidarity with survivors of sexual violence. The event will be held outside of the Maxwell building, which itself will be illuminated in purple. A minute's silence will also be held to remember all survivors of sexual violence.
And is it too early to deck your halls for Christmas? With the Christmas tree in Media City being put up today, what do you think? Let us know on Twitter at Salford Now.
Now today, the outside of the Imperial War Museum North is empty, but as of tomorrow the area will be flooded by a wave of clay poppies. They will appear in their new permanent home outside the museum ahead of Armistice Day this Thursday. Our reporter Eliza Barrett was there earlier.
Yes, that's right. The poppies are making their way back to Salford here at the Imperial War Museum. Now, they're not at the site at the moment, but tomorrow it will be flooded with hundreds and thousands of poppies. After being on tour, the poppies have found a permanent home here in Salford Quays for visitors to marvel for a very long time to come. Now, the exhibition is named Poppies, Wave and the Weeping Window, which were two separate installations that have now been combined and will be displayed within the architecture of the building, Ayrshard. The clay poppies were created by ceramic artist Paul Cummins and designer Tom Piper in 2014 as a way to mark the centenary of the First World War. Each poppy was created using the talents of 300 individuals, and visitors of the site are invited to appreciate the poppies both for their stunning artwork and as well as the representation of those sadly lost in the war. I took to the streets to see what the people of Salford thought about the permanent display.
From tomorrow, the Imperial War Museum North is going to be the permanent home for the ceramic poppies that were displayed
today.
What do you think about that?
We didn't know it was closed. Fantastic.
Do you think it'll be a good addition for their permanent home?
Definitely.
But generally, I think it's going to be a good thing in relation to people remembering what went on. You know, we saw it down in London and it had an impact there, so it's bringing it further north again to reinforce it.
We've seen it in London, the Tower of London as well, and it's so impressive. And I just think also it's obviously the setting of the museum, the fact that linked with the war, but the fact that we're remembering those that have died in the war, but also the fact it's up north as well, which is nice to know.
Yeah, I think that's fab.
Yeah.
Do you get that? Yeah.
Now, there has been a pledge by the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham. He's committed to deliver a carbon-neutral transport network in Salford and Greater Manchester.
The promise comes as our region's leaders headed to the COP26 summit in Glasgow. The proposed scheme would make Greater Manchester's bus fleet 100% electric within the next 10 years and further bus travel corridors to be built, including in Salford and Media City.
Our correspondent, Abby Carrington, has been following the story and is live at Media City tram stop to tell us more about the Mayor's promise.
Has pledged a carbon-neutral transport network. Now, this includes all of the buses and trams. The October autumnal budget secured a £1 billion funding in order to improve the transport in the city. Now, the Greater Manchester leaders headed up to Glasgow for the COP26 event. This is where the scheme came about. Now, one of the main schemes is to ensure that all bus fleets will be 100% electric by 2031. This is implementing travel corridors in between Wigan, Salford and places like Media City right here. Now, currently, all trams run on 100% renewable energy, but they aim to expand the networks into places such as Oldham, Bury, Haywood, Stockport and Rochdale. Andy Burnham has also said that the city is well underway to travel decarbonisation.
Unfortunately, we had a few connection issues there, but we did thankfully get to hear what Abby said about an important promise from the Mayor of Greater Manchester. Now, a lot of people do their daily workout in the park, but have you ever seen someone bring their baby along?
Well, our reporter Jennifer Morby went down to Buell Hill Park to see some parents who have done just that.
After having a baby, probably the last thing on your mind is doing squats in a public space, but these Salford mums are doing just that. YouFirst Fitness's new classes, PramFit, are taking place in Buell Hill Park to allow parents to work on their body with their baby.
It's just nice, you get to come out, meet other mums, see other babies, get a workout in, do something for you and for the baby as well.
According to charities like Mind, exercise has beneficial impacts on mental health, stimulating the brain to produce endorphins which relieve pain and stress.
Across the board with what we do, exercise is probably, in my opinion, one of the most underrated and underutilised antidepressants.
Now, for mums in Salford, PramFit isn't just about improving your mental and physical well-being, but it's also about gaining a great sense of community with other mothers and improving the bond you have with your baby.
It's really nice seeing the babies look up at their mums when they're doing things. Sometimes we get the babies out of the prams and we use them as weights so they get involved. Sometimes the babies are all put together so they can play, and it's just a really nice community, feel environment.
And what about dads?
I think at the moment, dads with prams are probably a little bit intimidated by the female-only vibe, and also because typically we're dealing with more, obviously the mums have given birth, we're dealing with more physical ailments and issues than we would if dads were to come. But dads are more than welcome. It's not called mum fit, it's called pram fit, so as long as they want to bring their little ones, then I'm happy to have them down.
So what advice would Mum Fran give to other parents wanting to join?
Just don't be scared about it, come and try it, do trials. Don't be scared, because I was so unfit, and I'm still pretty unfit to be fair, but I enjoy it. You get out of the house, you get to do some exercise, you get to do something healthy for you.
Through burpees with babies and stretches with stretch marks, it's clear to see this newfound community is producing smiles all round. Jennifer Morby, Salford Now.
You can find out more about all of today's stories online and on our social media at Salford Now.
Salford Now will be back next week at the same time, but from us, goodbye.
Goodbye.